Welcome back to the Ectoviolence channel. Today, we're talking about my top 50 favorite horror movies of all time. Now, slowly on the side, I've been working on a top 100 movies of all time, and I figured I should do a couple of these top 50s ahead of that. Before this, I did top 50 TV shows of all time, so check that out if you're interested. And before we launch right into this list, I do want to remind you that this is my top 50. It's not going to be the same as yours. There are going to be classics and staples left off this list. All of our lists are different, and I'll be glad to hear yours in the comments below. And let's get into it with number 50, Rumplestiltskin. Rumplestiltskin is a movie I've actually done quite a few videos on. A long time ago, I did a video about the DVD being one of the rarest DVDs I own and how I love that movie and all my experiences and background with it. And then TerraVision announced that they were going to be doing a 4K release. And when I finally got it in, I did a review and compared it to the DVD. And then I did a review comparing the original VHS release to their VHS release. This is a movie I have a great amount of respect for, and I understand that starting it off with number 50 right here, a lot of people are like, oh shit, we're in for some shit on this list. Hey, to be fair, you might be a little bit. There's going to be some good stuff on there too. And let's move on to number 49, Drrome. Drrome is a movie I first experienced as a teenager, and man, it really kind of influenced the types of movies that I was going to continue to watch. I watched Drrome before I watched anything David Lynch, and I think that definitely pushed me in that direction of, okay, who else directs movies somewhat similar to Cronenberg, you know what I mean? Obviously, if I'm comparing anybody to David Lynch, I think Cronenberg or Kubrick are sort of fair, right? And while I'm not a fan of James Woods personally anymore, I do really love this movie. This is one that if you haven't seen it and it's been on your lists, just see it. Number 48, we have a much more recent movie, I Saw the TV Glow. Now, I've watched this movie twice. I actually didn't get to see it in theaters. But this is a movie that really resonated with me, and while it's not quite explicitly horror, there's other elements in there as well, fantasy and psychological thriller elements for sure. It had to be on the list, honestly. There was just no way around it. I actually have been looking into getting a physical media copy. I'm not sure what version I'm going to get yet, but looking into it. Number 47, Dead Alive. Dead Alive is standard for me. You know, it's not a yearly watch, but every couple of years I'm like, ooh, you know what? I'm going to have a double feature with Bad Taste and Dead Alive. Now, Bad Taste didn't make the list. Dead Alive did. It's far superior, but Bad Taste is very good if you're into that kind of stuff too. I'm very glad to have the unrated DVD of this in my collection. It's one of those movies I saw as like a young child. I was like 12 or 13 or something and randomly was exposed to this and was like, holy shit. It is solid, and honestly, it had to be on the list somewhere. Number 46, The Craft. This is one I think I'm going to review the VHS of soon. I haven't gotten around to that, and I would really like to. The Craft is one I didn't actually see till later in adulthood, and man, I was missing out. It's like the perfect vibes. Like, think Scream and make it not a slasher, you know what I mean? Make it about witches, make it more like Mean Girls, and make it much more goth. And you've got this movie, it's great. Number 45, Sleepaway Camp. Sleepaway Camp is a movie, again, I didn't see this till adulthood. I actually think I like it more than any of the Friday the 13th movies. Now, except maybe Freddy vs. Jason, if you count that. Sorry. And I could see you arguing Part 4 is better. But man, Sleepaway Camp is, I think, my favorite camp horror movie. It's good, it's violent, it doesn't hold its punches. What else can I say? I want to do a deep dive into that movie sometime, so I'm not going to say too much. I did do a video recently of getting the recalled Sleepaway Camp box set, 1 through 3, the Red Cross edition. That was pretty cool. So at some point, I've got to go through all of those. Next up, number 44, Idle Hands. And if I'm not mistaken, I actually have already reviewed the DVD for this movie last October in Fright Club 2024. You can hear my full thoughts there, but I'm personally a huge Devon Sawa fan. Every time I bring him up, I always make the joke that I'm a Devon Sawa stan because he played Stan in the Eminem video. But Idle Hands is one of those ones I saw growing up that's very important. But this movie is very important to me. It's integral to who I am and growing up and my taste in movies. It's movies like this and The Faculty and Final Destination that I was actually watching when they first came out on home video releases. I was finally into horror movies, you know, and these were new and popular. And I was watching them, checking them out. And I love this one, and I still do. Number 43, Terrifier 3, which came out last year, and I have the 4K and the VHS release of. No other Terrifier movies made the list, by the way. For some reason, Terrifier 3 is my favorite of the movies. Maybe it's because I got to see it in a theater and just have that visceral reaction. I really liked 2, and I was debating, do I put 2 or 3 on this list? So, just keep that in mind. But I love a good Christmas slasher. Silent Night, Deadly Night, for example. Moving right along to number 42, Jacob's Ladder. Now, if you haven't seen this one, you could probably call it a psychological thriller. There's some debate on a few of these, which we'll get into. And at the very end, you might be like, where's this and where's that? And I might briefly mention a few movies that are like, okay, this isn't on here, this is why, and some of them just aren't my favorites. Jacob's Ladder, however, is one of those early 90s, very spooky, like the tone, the feel of the movie is just very deranged. If anything, it is a little David Cronenberg-y, a little Lynchy, but it's a very dark and disturbing movie, and I can compare it to one of the scenes in the movie. It really reminds me of the movie Fire in the Sky, which is another movie I love. I'm not going to spoil anything. If you haven't seen Jacob's Ladder, definitely search it out, give it a shot. It's from like 1991, I want to say. Maybe 90, I'm not sure. Number 41, The Hills Have Eyes. Specifically, the remake is what we're going to talk about here. I do like the original, but my god, this is one of my favorite remakes of all time. It is deranged, it's brutal. There's some scenes that are tough to watch, but my god, this is a watch every summer for me. Like in the middle of the summer when it's really hot, I watch this. This is a weird, interesting point I want to talk about. I like to watch movies seasonally as they're themed. Now, it doesn't mean exclusively that I do that, but like it feels really, really fun to do that, you know what I mean? Is that just me? Number 40, Green Room. Again, this is a little bit more modern. I think it's about 10 years old at this point, but Green Room, you could argue, is a thriller or a dark thriller action movie, but man, that movie's horrifying. And it has a great cast. Anton Yelchin, Patrick Stewart, the girl who played Maybe in Arrested Development. And there's limited movies about punks out there that I actually like. I can think of 3. Repo Man, SLC Punk, and Green Room. And I gotta say, I think Green Room's the best of the 3 too. It's unbeatable. That movie's great. I watched it in the last 6 months sometime. Number 39, Day of the Dead. Now, I had to put at least one of the Dead franchise movies on this list, and Day of the Dead has always been my favorite. I debated saving another spot for Dawn of the Dead, but then I thought, if I include one Dawn of the Dead, I'm going to have to include the other, because I kind of love both of those, so I left both of them off. But Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead has something going for it. I love the music. I love the vibes. I love the evolution of zombie lore that actually overtook a lot of stories eventually, because, you can only do so much with the zombie apocalypse, right? Day of the Dead just holds up for me as my favorite zombie movie, I think. Actually, I'm looking at my list and there's one in the top 10, but we'll get there. Number 38, Black Christmas. The original, of course. I do appreciate the remake, the first remake, Black Xmas. I saw that one in theaters when I was 15. Had a decent time with it. Wasn't in love with it. Don't think it's better. That's why the original's on this list. Anyway, I got off topic here, but Bob Clark directed this. He directed A Christmas Story. 2 of the most famous Christmas movies of all time, and I prefer Black Christmas, to be honest. It is a yearly watch for sure. Number 37, Sesperia. Now, just because of the Goblin score alone, this has to be on this list. It has to be this movie, specifically, of Argento's. Now, I did, at one point, debate putting Demons on here. I think he just produced that, if I remember correctly, but that's a great one as well. I love Demons. Sesperia is definitely one of those movies, though, man, this is everybody's introduction to giallo horror, right? Most people's. And it leads them down a path of very obscure and bizarre stuff, but sometimes that's good, because those people can watch all those movies and tell us which ones are worth watching. Like Cruel Jaws. Number 36, The Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project is a classic for me. Scared the living crap out of me the first time I watched this movie as a child on VHS, which I think is my favorite way to watch this movie. And as I mentioned before, I've reviewed this movie on VHS before. You check it out. A lot of these movies, chances are I've reviewed, and if I haven't, I will eventually. So hit that subscribe button if you're interested in more detailed thoughts. Number 35, Dracula, 1931. Honestly, Bela Lugosi as Dracula, it's more than iconic. There's a quote to describe it.
Heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
And Bela Lugosi will never die, despite what Bauhaus says. Number 34, Scream 4. Now, a lot of people are like, what the fuck? But to be honest, you're going to be doing that throughout this entire list, so get used to it. But Scream 4 is my favorite of the Scream sequels. Not of the franchise, but of the sequels, Scream 4 does it for me. Somewhere in my collection of posters that are not hung up and they're in tubes, I have a original theatrical poster because I worked at the theater during the time, and I need to get that thing framed up sometime. I really love that movie. Release it on 4K, please. Number 33, Eraserhead, David Lynch's classic. Now, this is a weird fucking movie, and if you haven't seen it, I can't necessarily recommend that you go and watch it. I don't know if you're going to like this type of movie or this work, but if you like weird, surreal movies, deranged, a little confusing, the plot is not directly explained to you, you have to kind of pay attention, you know what I mean? If you like those, check out Eraserhead. Some of the craziest visual effects that still are like, how the fuck did you do this? And rest in peace, David Lynch. Number 32, Poltergeist. Poltergeist is a movie that I rewatch every Halloween now. It became this in my teen years when I was like starting to get into buying a lot of DVDs when I had a job. I just go to Target or Walmart and buy some of their cheap shit. I'm pretty sure the copy of Poltergeist I have now on DVD, that's when I bought it. It was like $10. Now, this definitely isn't the scariest movie of all time. Now, it's probably scarier if you're a child, but it is so good. Like, I'm sitting here now, I'm thinking, I might go watch that after this. Is that on my shelf? I need to pull that. Number 31, Bride of Frankenstein. Now, I had to have at least a couple of these classic movie monsters on here, and Bride of Frankenstein is definitely, I think, my favorite. I think I'm definitively saying that. Maybe I'll rank all those sometime, but I haven't seen all of the sequels and all the different versions that they eventually did. I've seen some of the Hammer movies, but how many versions of Dracula have been done? My God. What really got me interested in Bride of Frankenstein originally was seeing Bride of Chucky as a kid, and I was like, oh, I'd like to watch that. You know, despite growing up in the 90s when the Universal monsters were actually being heavily pushed on us, I wasn't super into them. I was more into the monster serials. Or like, you know, Dracula and Frankenstein that pop up in Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Stuff like that. These days, it's in my top 50 horror movies of all time. Number 30, The Faculty. I've reviewed this movie on this channel again, but my best comparison for this movie, and I think it was intentional with the writer, Kevin Williamson, but all of the main characters are essentially direct imitations of characters from The Breakfast Club. You have the geek or the brain, the jock, the princess, the basket case, and it's basically that meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And bonus, Josh Hartnett has the worst haircut of all time in this movie. Number 29, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yes, it's a musical, but it is my favorite musical of all time. And I only like a couple musicals, really. Rocky Horror, though, is one of those ones that it holds up for me over the years. Again, I was exposed to this probably younger than I should have been, 11 or 12. But I was like, ooh, this for sure gets a yearly rewatch for me. It doesn't matter the time of year. Next up, number 28, Saw. Okay, I don't love all of the Saw movies, but the first one, I think it's brilliant. I think the execution, the writing, the performances, it's brilliant. It's basically Seven, if Seven was more of a horror and less of a thriller. But it kind of has its own tone and stuff too, and man, it's great. It holds up. I watched that first one and I'm like, ooh, I want to watch this franchise. And as I slowly get going, usually by the fourth or fifth one, I'm like, eh. But sometime on this channel, here's a promise, I will go through and watch and review all of the Saw movies at some point. I haven't seen like the last 3 of them. Number 27, Psycho. A classic, right? How could I not have Psycho on this list? I have been on the Universal Lot Tour. I've seen the house. I've seen the Bates Motel. It is glorious. This is a movie that I was actually surprisingly debating putting on the list, but then when I knew I was going to put it on the list, I was like, oh, well, it's got to be pretty high up on the list, right? It only made it to 27, but to be fair, this entire list is very complicated to put together and could change. If I put this together next week, it'd probably be a little bit different, you know what I mean? So take the specific placements with a grain of salt. Number 26, Nope. So people have pretty mixed feelings on this movie, and I actually really love this movie. Obviously, we're talking about it, right? Out of all the Jordan Peele movies, it was either going to be Get Out or Nope on this list, and I had to go Nope. I love a good UFO movie, and to make it spooky and creepy and a little bit Spielbergian, you know what I mean? I don't know, it's a great movie with a great feel. I love movies that have sort of messages about animals too, and it's fantastic, man. Some of the camera work in that movie and how they pioneered stuff with new cameras was just insane. Number 25, Near Dark. Now, I have quite a thing for vampire movies, especially if they're done really well. And Near Dark is no exception. It is up there in my vampire movies. I think I've actually done a top 10 vampire movie list about a year ago. Guarantee Near Dark was in the top 3. This movie is so good, honestly. Bill Paxton makes it worth the ticket price alone. Do yourself a favor and see Near Dark if you haven't. They were thinking about remaking it at one point, and they decided not to. At least this is what it says on the internet, because of the Twilight movies coming out. They thought it was too similar, which is crazy to say because Near Dark is much more Lost Boys Fright Night meets Terminator meets like an artsy indie 80s movie. But speaking of, number 24, Terminator. Okay, so the first Terminator movie is a horror movie. I know this isn't a new take for the internet. It might be new for you, or you might disagree. Terminator is basically a slasher movie. It's great. It's nostalgic for me. One of the first VHS tapes my parents ever bought me, like me specifically, was a 2-pack of Terminator and Terminator 2, and I wore those things down, and I still have them over on the shelf over there. Hot take, I also prefer Terminator over Terminator 2, because I'm a more horror-inclined person. But Terminator is great. Number 23, Midsommar. I didn't know how many newer movies were going to make it on this list, and at this point, that's a 6-year-old movie, I guess, but still feels newer. I think I consider newer the last decade, you know what I mean? But I actually rewatched this a few weeks ago, and I love it. It holds up. I know that this is a movie where people either love it or hate it, and there's nobody really on the fence about it. Those people just don't really care about it. But I am one of the people that loves it. Didn't care for Hereditary. Love Midsommar. Number 22, Jennifer's Body. Record scratch? Yeah, Jennifer's Body is number 22. Yes, I like Jennifer's Body more than Psycho. I said it. So I don't really have any excuses for this. I just really like Jennifer's Body. I like the actors that are in it. Pretty much all of them. I like the performances, the execution. Very weird but cool movie. Next up, number 21, Drag Me to Hell. I'm a big Sam Raimi fan, and Drag Me to Hell has just become more of a favorite movie as time goes on. I saw it in the theaters when it came out, and every time I watch it, I'm more thoroughly impressed with the movie that it is. A few months ago, I did a comparison with the DVD and the 4K release, the new Steelbook that came out, which was just a re-released Steelbook of the original 4K from a year or two ago, but I really took a look at that movie, and that 4K looks great. Now we are in the top 20, starting with number 20, Alien. Now, much like Terminator, I consider the first in these franchises to be horror, and I prefer them over the sequels that a lot of other people prefer. And I understand, I'm not saying you're wrong, it's just my preference. Ridley Scott's Alien is a masterpiece. I love it. It's the most rewatched Alien movie for me, and it's coming from a guy who really likes Prometheus, but I hated Alien Covenant, you know what I mean? It had to be on the list. It's one of those movies that just talking about it kind of makes me want to watch it, you know what I mean? And next up, we've got number 19, The Silence of the Lambs. Okay, this is one of those ones that's borderline horror and thriller, but I'm just going to appease people and say it's horror and throw it on this list because I really do love this movie. I think I watched it for the first time 11, 12, 13. Again, this is like my developing years. I was starting to watch all these horror movies, and this one specifically, it was like you're enthralled and just drawn into the story. And as a child, I couldn't understand some of all the details that were happening. And I was so confused at that ending where they kind of trick you and reveal that the police are at a different house. God, it's such a good movie. Again, makes me want to watch it. Probably all the top 20s I'm going to say that on. Number 18, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Again, I saw this at a friend's house. It like changed me, you know what I mean? Seeing a slasher movie like that. And the fact that it was older, for some reason, made it scarier. You ever have that effect on you? Especially when you're a kid. Some older stuff can seem cheesier because it's older and like less interesting or boring, but some stuff can seem like just way more terrifying. And this movie feels real, obviously. You know what I mean? Like you're watching it, it almost feels like a documentary. It's just so good. So good. And it's the only Texas Chainsaw movie on the list, although I have mixed feelings on a lot of the franchise. I really love the second movie. I really love the remake. And in fact, I kind of like Texas Chainsaw 3D. I'm sorry. Hated the Netflix one, though. Number 17, Hellraiser. The first Hellraiser, it's just a classic. It's very rewatchable. The rest of the Hellraiser movies are of varying quality. I think the first 3 are solid. After that, they are varying quality. I don't hate Bloodlines, but the 2022 remake would probably make the list if I was doing top 100, because that one's really good too. But just seeing Frank in that attic, like, that gives me nightmares thinking about it. Number 16, Evil Dead. Okay, so the first Evil Dead movie is on this list. Evil Dead 2 is not. I'm sorry. I prefer the first one. I don't know what it is. I feel like people are just going to call me a contrarian on a lot of these choices. But I think it's just because I watched those movies more, or there's just something about them, you know what I mean? I think I've always felt this way about the Evil Dead movies. I think when I was a teenager, I thought my favorite was Army of Darkness because it was, the funniest, the most ridiculous. But as time goes on, I've accepted the first one as my favorite. Number 15, It Follows. Okay, this might be a little high up on the list. I don't know. The adjustments could be made to this list for sure. Ignoring that, It Follows is a great movie with a great soundtrack. Again, I watched this movie and I feel spooked. And I don't get that with a lot of supernatural movies. What actually spooks me out is more realistic stuff. Things that could actually happen, like more realistic slasher movies. Or just deranged body horror, like Tusk and Human Centipede. Obviously, that's gonna fuck with me. Just in a visceral way, you don't like watching that stuff. I don't anyway. Although I do like Tusk. It Follows was great. I hear they're working on a sequel. I don't know if we really need that, but I'll see it, I'll give it a shot. Number 14, The Substance. Okay, this movie fucking rules, dude. The Substance. I've talked about this in several videos as well. I reviewed it when it came out originally because I didn't know it was coming out till like a couple weeks before it's coming out, and I saw a trailer for it, and I was blown away. I was like, I've gotta fucking see that. I made it happen, and it was easily my favorite movie of last year. It might move up or down as time goes on, but right now it's at number 14. Number 13, the original Final Destination. I love it. I think it's easily the best of the franchise. I debated putting Final Destination 3 here. I just went with the first one because I think it really sets the tone and the pace, and without that, you don't have any of them. Final Destination Bloodlines came out recently, and my channel's done very well recently with Final Destination videos, so I don't know. If you came here from that, let me know what you think about the placing of this. Next up, number 12, The Shining. Now, The Shining is one of the most classic horror movies of all time. It had to be on the list. Originally, it was, I'm not going to lie, in the 20s or 30s, and I just kind of had to move it up. Like, it's too good not to, right? Now, I feel like I can't even really talk about this movie because it's been so talked about. Like, what is there left to say? Other than that, I love it, and it's good. It's great. The performances, the music, the direction. Stanley Kubrick was an asshole. Jack Nicholson, have you seen that video of him getting ready on set? Oh my god. Also, I love Dr. Sleep. Number 11, Ginger Snaps. Now, earlier we talked about Jennifer's Body, and Ginger Snaps is essentially the precursor to that. That is much better. And if I'm not mistaken, the only werewolf movie on this list. There's a couple others I like. American Werewolf in London, The Howling, Teen Wolf, but Ginger Snaps is the fucking best one. I've got the Scream Factory Blu-ray release of this, I think. I'd like to give that a full review sometime. Number 10, we are down to the top 10. This was the easiest part of the list to make, right? So for me, none of these are going to be debatable. They are pretty distinctly my top 10. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. It's my favorite Halloween movie. Yeah, I know. Comment below. But Halloween 3 does it for me in a way that none of the other ones do. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the other ones, certain amounts of them. I have a lot of different Halloween takes and opinions that would probably piss you off. Halloween 3, though, easily my favorite. It's so cool, man. Next up, number 9, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, my God, that's my movie, man. I reviewed the VHS of this early on my channel. I had a lot of fun with it, and obviously being a very unintentionally gay movie, there's a whole documentary about what the actor went through filming this movie, and it's hard to explain. I think Freddy is the scariest in this movie. For me, this movie is more important to me than Dream Warriors, and I understand that that's a very hot take in the horror world. I have a couple of those, but people have come around on A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. This isn't that hot of a take that it's great, Now, other people might think it's ridiculous. It's here in the top 10, but it's where it's staying. Number 8, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. You might notice I'm actually wearing a Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me shirt today. If you're wondering where I got this shirt, it's actually available in my TeePublic store right now. That's where I got it from. I don't know if you can tell, but it is a pink shirt, but you can get it in other colors too. That's one small thing you can do to support this channel. But Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, listen, I'm a huge Twin Peaks and David Lynch fan. If that wasn't obvious to you, or if you didn't know that, generally one of my favorite franchises or anything, whatever you want to call it, on the planet. So, had to be on the list, had to be high up on the list. For people who experience trauma, I feel like Twin Peaks just hits different. Number 7, Shaun of the Dead, my favorite zombie movie of all time. I don't know how we got to this point necessarily. I don't know if that's a very hot take, but I love Shaun of the Dead, man. I can watch this movie anytime, and I do mean anytime. Now, recently, I think in October, they re-released this in theaters, and I actually got to go check it out, because I never got to see it in theaters the first time around. Edgar Wright is he's one of my favorite modern directors in general, you know what I mean? I watched Scott Pilgrim, I think, last night or the night before, and Shaun of the Dead was where that all started, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Number 6, Bride of Chucky. Easily my favorite in the Child's Play universe, or Chucky universe, whatever you want to call it these days, but another movie that I can just kind of put on, and it takes me back to the time of its release. And I didn't see it in theaters, but you know what I mean? This movie sort of has that vibe of post-Scream horror movies that are adapting. Even the cover image, you know what I mean? The poster reflects that. It's sort of mimicking Scream. We are down to the top 5, guys. This is it. Number 5, Fright Night. Okay, Fright Night, you know what I mean? Vampire movies, man, they just get to me. And Fright Night is so good. This is a great Saturday night, late night movie. You turn it on, you get some pizza and some sody pops, some snacks going. I don't know if you're a beer person, maybe that. Realistically, though, wine would go better with a vampire movie, let's be honest. But Fright Night, one of the best vampire movies of all time. I would say the best, but let's be fair, there's a couple more spots here to go, right? And number 5 is pretty high out of 50, so good on you, Fright Night. Number 4, here it is, folks, Scream. So we had Scream 4 on this list and Scream. None of the other ones made the list. Those two are definitely my favorites of the franchise. Scream being just revolutionary. It redefined the genre going forward in the 90s. But it's great. This is another one of those ones that I have trouble trying to say things about because I feel like it's just been said. It's been beaten to death. Plus, I've reviewed 1 through 3 on VHS before. Let's move on to number 3. John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, a lot of lists are probably going to have this at number 1, or at least somewhere on the list, I'd hope, because John Carpenter's The Thing it's unmatched. If this type of movie is your thing, it is better than everything else. If I was to describe other movies that kind of have this vibe, it would be Alien, People trapped in a sort of scenario with a sci-fi monster killing them. And specifically an alien in both of those cases. But The Thing holds up so well. I could rewatch this movie monthly. Number 2, The Lost Boys. So I actually haven't talked enough about The Lost Boys on this channel. Before I did this channel on YouTube, I started a podcast with my brother called the Frog Brothers Podcast, which was a reference to the Lost Boys, obviously. We eventually went to a convention in Texas and hosted panels and got to interview Jason Patrick, Billy Worth, Jameson Newlander, Gerard McMahon, aka G. Tom Mack, and we got to meet Corey Feldman. It was an experience I'll never forget. I got to harass Jason Patrick about Speed 2 Cruise Control in the best way possible, because I actually do genuinely enjoy watching that movie. And here it is, folks, the #1 horror movie of all time for me, A Nightmare on Elm Street. The original Nightmare on Elm Street for me is unmatched. Once I was exposed to that, it was over with. This was the nail in the coffin of me being in the horror graveyard, you know what I'm saying? This was it. This just did it for me. A Nightmare on Elm Street is so classic, so iconic. I think it'll forever be my favorite horror movie. Well, that's it, guys. That is all 50 of my favorite horror movies of all time. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Give me your list. And if you like this video, be sure to check out this one and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.